Now, I'm not going to do my usual dog and pony show when it comes to the lockdowns and the absurdity of the lockdown that took place in Perth. You know it all by now. This bloke is power mad, he's out of control, but there's something a little bigger than a couple of days of inconvenience to Western Australia that I want to talk about. Firstly, the lie at the heart of these quick lockdowns. We've seen them in South Australia, we've seen them in Brisbane, we've seen them in Perth a couple of times now. They just are garbage. They are an admission that contact tracing doesn't work in these states because, put simply, it takes 14 days for the virus to show up. Yet, just after a couple of days of no new cases, this is what the Emperor was telling people who would believe anything this idiot would say today in Western Australia.
An immediate lockdown has delivered the results that we needed. The short 3-day lockdown has done the job it was designed to do. It was the circuit breaker we needed to limit community spread and keep our community healthy.
You know it. But because this bloke won everything he possibly could at the last election, he'll keep going, just like they will in Queensland, just like they will in New Zealand, just like they will everywhere else. The truth remains the case, that of the hundreds of thousands of people that have come back to this country, they come through hotel quarantine. It's a system that largely works unless the state government isn't up to it. In New South Wales, where they have had the sheer bulk of the people come through, there has been very little leaks, and if there are leaks, they get on top of them. But this bloke couldn't care less about business. He has no one around him who cares about business, and frankly, most of the people don't care about business either. So I'll save you all of the obvious because you've heard it all before. But there was one little line that I had to deal with that the Emperor spouted today. It's about people who have left this country to go to funerals of the people that they love in other parts of the world. Think about this. Government getting between birth, death and marriage. Have a look at this.
If you want to go overseas, it should be for only the most extraordinary of reasons at this point in time. Not to go overseas for a wedding, even to go overseas for a funeral. So we have to be a lot tougher in relation to letting people out of Australia at this point in time.
Excuse my language, but you prick. People love people all over the world. People have got family all over the world. People's parents are all over the world. Now, Mark McGowan understands the bond that you can have with your parent. After all, when he wiped the floor at the last state election just a few weeks ago, who was there to share in his moment? His mum.
To my parents, Mary and Dennis, with their famous caravan. To my brother, Michael, who's here tonight, and my sister-in-law, Diane. Thank you. Thank you for making the trip across the Nullarbor again to support us all here tonight. I love you all.
Well, guess what people who have family in Lebanon, the United States, England, Fiji, guess how they feel about their family members too, Premier? They love them. And whether you like it or not, people have the right to attend the funeral of those whom they love. Because we have a system where if you get the dispensation to go overseas, you have to come back into hotel quarantine and you have to pay. Firstly, with your time of 2 weeks, and then secondly, to make sure that you don't bring the virus back into the country. But there is a really weird strain of control that has now taken over all governments everywhere for more than a year. The absurdity that even your family member dying isn't a good enough reason to be allowed to leave the country in order to come back into hotel quarantine where they can make sure that you don't have the virus. This was said today by the Federal Health Minister, Greg Hunt.
Look, firstly in relation to people who travel overseas, of course, we've had a dramatic reduction from a nation which moved freely, people incoming, people outgoing, other than appropriate visas for those who were incoming. We are now, as a general rule, not able to leave our country. This is the heaviest peacetime restriction that I'm aware of in our lives, and potentially since the end of the First World War. Obviously, wartime, very serious conditions were in places.
This is crap. We don't have to put up with this anymore. I'm not talking about people going overseas for holidays. I'm not talking about people who have enough money to go skiing in Aspen. I'm talking about us having the right to be with our families when they need us most. Did you know last year that there were 141,000 Australians who died? How many of those had limited funerals? How many of those people died behind glass? We get it. COVID is serious. We get it. COVID is potentially deadly. But to 99% of people who get it, it is mild. It won't kill them. We know how to deal with this. Yet for some reason, government, we are still licking their boots, who are telling you that you can't visit someone in their dying days in a hospital and that you can't go to their funeral after they die. Think about this. These are the absolute basics of what our expectation is about being a free people. Again, you pay to go back into hotel quarantine. Government doesn't foot the bill. You pay for it. Meantime, in a country that has lost hundreds of thousands of people because of the vaccine rollout in the United States, and sure, they've got, among others, vets to administer it. By the middle of the year, people who have been vaccinated in the United States will now be allowed to travel freely back into Europe, while you can't go to a family member's funeral because the people here are so paranoid about the cases which are going to roll out. This is not okay anymore. I repeat, it's not about holidays, it's about something that we shouldn't have to fight for. How often do we do this? All night, every night, we have to sit here and fight for the bloody obvious. Yet we have these idiots at the state level who are saying Australians are not allowed to return to their own country. Yes, they are. Oh, we can't possibly have hotel quarantine. It works in New South Wales. But because the contact tracing system doesn't work, or you haven't done the work to make sure that the doctors, the cleaners and everyone else in hotel quarantine is taken care of, you just say people can't come home, people can't leave. This is the health equivalent of putting your fingers in your ears and going, la, 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 can't pay any attention, nothing's happening. That's what toddlers do. We're adults. Let us take risk, knowing that we, sure, have to take 2 weeks out, hotel quarantine, we pay for it. It's a simple system, right?